everyone, this is Fui here from Statecraft in Motion. This is our episode 11, and today we have Nikesh with us. He is a 26-year-old entrepreneur. Nikesh Adhikari, did I get that right?
Yes,
Oh,
Adhikari.
Adhikari. And Nikesh is from Nepal. And he is actually a very multi-talented young man. He's an entrepreneur, but he's also very much involved in a lot of work in Buddhism and social responsibility, youth movements, and diplomacy and all sorts. So I'll let him explain and share a little bit of his background just a little bit later on. But the reason why I've invited him on our show today is what transpired this year in Nepal, where they had a coup. There was a regime change, quite a sudden one. And while the world was watching, thankfully it didn't last very long, but there was some bloodshed. So I've actually invited Nikesh today to share a bit about what transpired, how he sees Nepal going forward, because there's going to be an upcoming election March next year, I believe. Nikesh, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Nikesh, welcome to the show. Maybe you want to give us a little bit of a background on what you do, what you're busy with these days.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Fui. So I am Nikesh Adhikari. I am from Nepal. And some of the things that I do is that I've been working actively in carbon projects in Nepal. I have been working in promoting Lumbini, the birthplace of the Shakyamuni Buddha, all over the world, I would say. Yeah, so I have basically had several interactions in Harvard and Columbia University. When I went to the United States, I had the opportunity to attend the United Nations General Assembly with the Prime Minister, where we were able to promote the birthplace of Buddha. I have been working in bringing a lot of foreign investment to Nepal, especially from the Southeast Asian region, as well as some partners from the United States as well. And I've always believed that Nepal is a place of magnificent opportunities.
Indeed.
It's a diamond, and the more I get to meet more people everywhere across the world and explain them about our great country, I think that's been a marvelous experience. So that is what I do. I try to bring as much as projects in Nepal with foreign expertise and create as much opportunities for the people everywhere we do projects. I think that's what we've been doing.
All at the young age of 26. As I said, Nikesh is a multi-talented young man. But unfortunately, Nepal, experienced a rather dramatic and sudden political change in government just in September. We saw youths on the street. And of course, then very quickly, I think within days, the deposed Prime Minister Sharma Oli was replaced by another interim Prime Minister, Sushila Karki, who is now the interim Prime Minister. And I believe she's going to be holding the position until such time that you have a election in March. But what surprised us was it was a youth movement. And then, but yet the Gen Z movement then endorsed a boomer. She's no Gen Z, she's 72. What were you, maybe perhaps you could just share a little bit of your experience. Where were you on that day, and what happened, what transpired, and how it has become what it has become today, after September?
After September, I think it has been a very crazy few past months, I would say. but everything happens for the greater good. And I would say that we are very satisfied with where we are today and the outcome of
Mm,
what has happened.
mm,
Now, how it happened is a separate story because there are several versions of how it happened.
mhm,
But the most one of the most common one or the accepted one would be that uh, after KP Sharma Oli, the Prime Minister of Nepal, returned from his visit from China,
mhm,
the sudden social media was totally banned in Nepal. And the reason it was banned is not because government wanted to silence, I would say. It's not because of the silence. It's I think we have widely misunderstood.
mm.
But it was banned because these foreign companies, such as Facebook and Instagram or YouTube or all the platforms, they disagreed to register themselves
I
in
see.
the Ministry of Communications and the department that is responsible. TikTok, however, had completed this process
Mm,
because of which TikTok was open all the way. TikTok was not banned.
mhm.
So in a way, I think the narrative
Right.
that the government wanted to silence everyone
Mhm.
is the wrong narrative. Is
That's
not
certainly
the
the narrative that we are receiving from outside
yes,
of Nepal.
yes.
Okay.
I would say that it is a wrong narrative. And I think that the reason this whole movement happened is because of a bubble that burst.
Mhm.
So it's not this social media that burst, that is the whole reason for this to happen, but it was the reason the bubble burst.
Right.
And I would say the main purpose behind this regime change or the frustrations or everything that's happening would be that the people of Nepal are tired
Mm,
of the current situation that everybody is in.
mm,
We're not satisfied with where we are,
mhm.
and we believe that we are destined to reach a much better place.
Yep.
And the current people, they have miserably failed for decades to make it happen.
Mm,
And after seeing the entire world, I believe that nothing is impossible.
yep.
And Nepal is in a very good position. It has magnificent assets with it, and if it is utilized properly, it could reach a much higher place.
Mhm.
And these people, these current people, they are unable to make it happen. So this is the reason for the bubble burst.
Right. Nepal's had, I mean, even a few years ago, you had the palace coup, and which was also again, quite bloody. What most people saw in this recent movement was that there was no apparently there was no figurehead, no one organization, and it was so everyone took it as if like it was a organic thing that was driven by digital natives, getting on TikTok, getting on Instagram, getting on Discord, Twitter, and so on. But whereas for you, you reckon that it's more driven by issues that has been festering for many, many decades. And because of the either lack of leadership or poor leadership or even corruption, would you say?
Yes, corruption,
Yeah.
definitely.
So the feeling of the Gen Z, when they came out onto the streets, they wanted a change. But how is it that they then replaced with another old guard, if you like, rather than someone nearer to their age, which you would expect that.
So, like I said, there's different versions of
Hmm.
how we might accept it,
Hmm.
but I would tell you how I look at it.
Okay.
I see that, the Sushila Karki,
Mm.
who's a former Chief Justice,
Yep.
she was the one chosen by the masses, not because of the age or, I don't think there's an age or anything in play here,
Hmm.
but everyone wanted a neutral figurehead that could do a safe landing to the current situation,
Mm.
right? And now in this process, it is very natural for several factions of people
Mm.
with several different agendas or interest to try to bend the results to their favor. So in this process, of course, there were different powers in action to make a certain thing happen.
Mm.
But currently, she would be there to take this country to the elections, to a fair elections,
Mm-hmm.
to basically, create a situation where everybody will be able to participate in
Mm.
the right to vote, because of which they have, created new ways to register for the voters.
Yep.
So I would say that the number of voter registration has greatly increased compared to the past few
Mm.
elections.
Mm.
And they are also trying to get the foreign Nepalese to be able to vote, which has also been a very big hurdle, I would say, for the right government to come into place.
Mm.
And everybody would believe that she is the person that is able to make it happen.
Mm.
So now, in the terms of execution, in practical forms of the situation right now, what I would also like to say is that she was never ready for the position, right? So it is not she had never planned for what she would do when she reaches there.
Yep.
So there is definitely difference in, the speed of how things might work.
Mm-hmm.
Some things might have moved faster, some things might have moved slower. Everybody's satisfactions might not have been fulfilled. But I would say that something that she is very striving towards is to have the elections. And I think for Nepal right now, that is the most important thing, which she is doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. What you're trying to tell me is, and I think this is a virtue, and a virtue that is very much lacking in the world, in world of politics today, is the issue of trust. So young people are not looking for how old you are, what color you are, what religion you are. What you're telling me is, at the core, the trust must be there, which means trust is very much lacking in politics all over the world. So, for example, I see that if mainly in the West, right? So the West would attack, say, Xi Jinping, President Putin, or because they are communists, they are whatever labels that they want to call them. But at the end of the day, they have the respect, even of the younger generation, in their own country, simply because there is the issue of trust. So if someone like Sushila Karki has a high level of trust, people then afford her that kind of respect. And hopefully out of that comes stability. So do you think, two questions. Do you think she'll run for Prime Minister proper this time? And secondly, I think more importantly, could you give us a breakdown of Nepal's voting base? You know, different, just the big group. So you have about 30 million people, I believe, and you have different regions, and you have different ethnic groups and different religions. Maybe help us to break down a little bit the main groups, and how do you see the next election, and how would that take shape?
So I would say that the next election would probably be the closest thing to a fair election that Nepal has ever had to undergo.
Wow, that's
The,
really
the,
saying
the,
something.
that would be one way of putting it, right? Because there has always been a particular group of people governing the whole system during an election. So right now, the scenario is very unique.
Mm.
And In terms of the voter base, I would say that people in Nepal are now wanting something different from what they have been facing these past decades.
Mm,
The same promises are too thin now. And just promises is also not going to cut it out anymore. So I would say that this election is something that everyone is very much looking forward to. And I believe that this election will take Nepal to a completely new direction, regardless of the outcome. At least people will fairly know where everybody stands. And after coming out of this situation, I also believe that the next government will be a national unified government. It will not be a certain aligned or a certain not aligned. But what Nepal requires now is a national unity.
mm,
And if anybody is trying to divide it, then that is the true enemy
mm,
that we must all face together.
mm, mm. So, in terms of voter base, help us understand what are the main voting blocks in Nepal? The Hindus, the Buddhists, so
So in
how is
terms
it?
of
Yeah.
so now if you look at the numbers, I would say that Nepal is a Hindu populated country. There are most number of Hindu people here,
Mm-hmm.
and we also have Buddhists, we have Muslims, we have Christians.
Yep.
I think that the highest number would be Hindus in terms of the religion base,
Yep.
and I think one of the most important thing that we are also trying to sort out is the voting from the people that are residing outside Nepal. There's a very good number of people that are also successful
Mm,
that are outside Nepal,
mhm,
whom the current government is trying to give them the right to vote and to register as much as possible.
mhm.
So that will be the numbers. I would have to check the
Yeah,
accurate
I
myself.
think
Yeah,
someone yeah, I think I read somewhere something like 30% of your your workforce
yeah, is outside.
is outside of Nepal, and a lot of it is actually in Malaysia, in my country.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Great number.
a great number of them are here, and um, how their aspirations, I understand their aspirations are that they want a different government, a unified government. And if that can be achieved, you're probably one of the rare countries in the world, in the democracy, that's actually managed to do that, because everywhere else, including my country, is getting more and increasingly fragmented. So we are having right now, right at this while we're speaking, we're actually going through a state election, right, in my home state in Sabah. There's 79 seats, state seats. I believe there are like nearly 600 candidates. Do you see a situation like this in Nepal? Are you saying that the next election in Nepal, for when you say a unified for a country to be unified, your voting blocks also have to be unified, which means the most a 1-to-1 seat, a
Mhm.
1-to-1 fight, right, in a seat. You see that happening?
So I may have misunderstood the question, but I will explain what I
Sure,
understood. And
of course. Yeah.
if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Mm,
So in terms of Nepal, how I mean unified,
yeah.
let me
Hmm. Hmm.
iterate it properly, is that Nepal has 165 electoral areas,
Hmm.
and 110 is the party seats.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of unified, how I mean unified is that Nepal has just undergo a very critical situation, which might have turned into a lot more worse condition.
Mm,
But Nepal managed to safe land into a very very good outcome, I would say.
mm, mm.
And the next government that is formed, I think, will have a completely different set of, direction.
Yeah.
It would completely change things.
Yeah, Nikesh, you see,
And
yeah,
yes.
see, what happens is that in the past, okay, let's
Mhm.
come back to Nepal,
Okay.
and I feel that in my country is getting there. But anyway, you've had many changes of prime ministers simply because nobody has a majority, right?
Yes.
So it's unstable because of that. So because of this latest coup and a change in direction and change in mindset and a new sense of nationalism, then there must be a party that is able to hold all things together and provide that stability rather than or some sort of a stable coalition for it to carry out what it needs to do, you see. So is that how you're seeing it in the next general election?
It is not easy.
Mm,
It is very, very difficult.
mm-hmm,
But it is also something that is not impossible.
right.
The reason I say it because there has been a national government made before, which had to collapse, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So right now the situation is very different,
Mm-hmm.
and even in the old parties, the new generation and the young generation, they are striving to have more control. Probably even replace the old
Oh
leaders.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the new government is formed, regardless of how the division stands, I believe that a national unity will be formed because everybody realizes the importance of what a national government is right now.
Mm.
And there is absolutely no luxury to be divided anymore. Because, when you say in terms of interference now,
Mm.
Nepal is geopolitically in a very unique place where everybody have their eyes on. And when everybody have their eyes on, they would try to place things where they so want to see it.
Yeah, I was just about to get there actually. after all the the name of this show is called Statecraft in Motion,
Yeah.
right? So I was just about to get there because again, like I said, the impression that people outside looking at Nepal and what happened because the timing of the youth movement in September was just uncanny, right?
Yeah.
The prime minister had just shook hands with President Xi, right? He just came back from the SCO, the Shanghai Corporation, and in the minute he landed, within days, within weeks, something happened. It's just like JD Vance, decided to visit Modi, and then within days there was this war between Pakistan and India. So there's this whole heavy lacing of foreign interference, and now we're looking at what's happening in Bangladesh. I mean, last year, just in August last year, Sheikh Hasina was just ousted, and now it's Prime Minister Yunus, and now he's also in a very a shaky place again. Nepal, Bangladesh, all these are smaller nations that are all being squeezed in between, this rivalry, let's put it very plainly, between the US and China stroke Russia. How much do you think in the past and now there has been foreign interference in terms of this kind of political chaos that you see in places like Bangladesh and even Nepal?
I think that, like I just said before, when people have eyes in something, they would want to see it in a particular way.
Mm,
And when too many people have eyes on something, then the conflict of interest begins.
mm-hmm,
Right. So now, in terms of Nepal, I would say, I would explain in terms of Nepal.
mm-hmm,
I think that there is a very heavy foreign interference, but the people who are actually being mobilized don't even know that they're being mobilized,
Of course.
right? Yeah, I think that's a very
They've,
sad
they've been
reality.
doing it for the last, I don't
You
know,
never
hundred
know.
over
You
years,
never know.
couple of 100 years. Okay,
Couple of hundred
so
years.
they've got it down to a T. So yeah, go on.
It's like they don't even realize that they're doing somebody else's work,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
and
just like in Hong Kong,
just
the Yellow
just like
Umbrella movement, it was heavy with foreign interference, but people felt that they were doing the right thing for Hong Kong. So I'm just wondering whether is it the same for Nepal, you think, now?
I do.
Yes.
I think that this particular cycle also happened in Nepal,
Mm,
and the current movement, Gen Z movement or the current revolution, they might or might not have been their doing,
mm,
but after it happened, everybody definitely played their own part.
right.
Now, that is something that we cannot deny.
Mm,
We
mm,
cannot impose that, a particular group or a particular country or nation, or they are responsible for making this happen.
mm.
Everybody have played their own parts in making it happen, but after it has happened, everybody have tried to make things their way. And so, which is why I said that the current Chief Justice is someone that we believe is the most unbendable person available.
Okay. Okay. So coming back to again, geopolitics and Nepal is of course squeezed in between two superpower, rising power, whatever you want to call it. One is India, and in your southern border, and then you have China on the northern border. So I know what I mean. We in Southeast Asia know what it feels like, but I think it's probably a multiple of 100 for you guys because simply because you share a border. At least over here, we are somewhat in the vicinity. We have ships going up and down the South China Sea, or at least it's not right in front of us. So how do you think the new, as a new leader or the youth of today, when you select a leader, how do you think you want him or her to play this statecraft between two superpowers? How do you think there should be what is the show? Give us a sense of what that balancing act, that new balancing act would look like. Because in the past, I think the prime ministers have been accused of being too Marxist, too pro-US, one or the other. So it cannot be one or the other, obviously, because this is your new thing, right? So give us a sense of what this new balancing act is. What does it look like, or
So,
will it look like?
okay, so uh, I have always considered
Hmm.
this particular position the luckiest position that can exist, right?
Right.
Being squeezed in between is the best thing that has happened for Nepal, and is a very big blessing in disguise.
Wow. Okay.
And now, why I say it is because now Nepal has remained neutral
Hmm.
for its entire history. It has never aligned, in terms of a country, it has never aligned with any side. It
Hmm.
has always promoted that, a better relationship and peace
Hmm.
among everyone is the only way forward. That is what Nepal's stance is internationally, everywhere, all the time, in
Hmm.
any kind of scenarios, whether it was Israel, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine.
Yeah.
Nepal only promotes peace. Now, in terms of maneuvering this chessboard,
Yeah.
I would say that the greater opportunity lies in mediating between two very large sides, which don't want to speak to each other. Because they don't want to speak to each other, Nepal is there in between with this opportunity
Mm.
to basically connect these two
Hmm.
and use this connection as an opportunity, whether it is in terms of trade, whether it is in terms of culture. Now, since I've been working in the field of, promoting Lumbini, developing a master plan there in the Ramgram Stupa, which is the final resting place of the Buddha, and I see that India and China
Yep.
are much more closer than they actually realize. History and culture connects us all very, very deeply, is very, very deeply rooted, something that nobody can deny. And now, because of too many historical events, I
Mm,
believe that the ice breaking is something that is very difficult. But I believe that right now it's also happening. Now, again, I say why Nepal is in a very lucky position is even in the process of these ice breaking between two sides, there is United States that come in as a triangle now.
yeah. Yep.
So
Always.
we only don't have opportunities from India or China, but we also have opportunities from the West. Right now, I would say that the way moving forward is to basically connect all of these, bring them all to the same table,
Mm,
try to get them to shake hands. There
mm,
is no other alternative.
mm-hmm.
If we try to win, we lose. Everybody lose. If anybody tries to win, everybody lose. So I would say the way the new prime minister should think is how Nepal can become that towering figure.
Mm,
And we have the birthplace of the Buddha.
yep.
That is this sacred ground that where even Antonio Guterres he came there and he spread a message of peace,
Mm-hmm. Mm,
giving it to the world for for stopping the Israel-Palestine war.
mm-hmm.
I think that we have significant things that is gifted to us, which we must utilize in the right way.
No, I find it very refreshing that you see so much hope in the future. I think well, this is the blessing of being young, right? Because you seem to see yourself as from a place of chaos going to a place of calm. Whereas for someone, maybe perhaps my generation, is seeing ourselves from a place of calm to a place of chaos. Would you say that is the how the youth see it these days?
I would say that there is definitely sadness and sorrow.
Mhm.
There is definitely sadness and sorrow, and I would say that this has probably been one of the most difficult times for everyone in their own ways.
Mm, mm,
But I also believe that before something very, very good happens, it needs to reach a certain point and then it dissipates and people will
have we
be,
reached that point yet? Have we
yes.
reached that climax yet, you think? You're talking about the world as a whole, right?
I think that we are in its climax every day. We are living the climax. Yesterday was a climax, today is a climax, tomorrow may be a climax because the war in Russia is happening. People died today as well. Would you consider that the climax? I think that the climax is everywhere, every day. And it only takes a simple wave of a wand,
Mm,
I would say,
mm,
in the end to completely stop and everything to be normal again. We will never even realize. So I think that this climax is there in several places,
yep.
and this climax has finished in several places and
Mm,
is about to finish in a lot more places. But I would say that the youth, like you said, the Bangladesh or Philippines or Peru, or after the revolution happened in Nepal, we saw even national flags of Nepal waved in these
right.
places. I
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that it's a common feeling. Everybody's tired of where they are now,
Mm,
and everybody sees the world a lot more beautiful, and they believe that it can be a lot more beautiful. That is why everybody's fighting, right?
Mm, mm,
And if they don't win today, then they will still try tomorrow, and they will win day after tomorrow everywhere.
yeah, yeah.
Eventually,
We will get there eventually. The the
we will
the
get
thing
there
is, how are you
eventually.
going to survive between now and that eventual day, you know?
Correct.
Anyway, I want to bring ourselves back to, Nepal again. Recently there was an interview circulating an interview that was conducted by Al Jazeera, and that's been circulating quite widely in the social media. And it was an interview by this youth leader who calls himself Sudan Gurung. And he, would you say he represents what you have just expressed? The aspirations, the desire, the future that they want to see for Nepal?
So I would say that he played a very important role
Mm,
in this whole revolution,
okay.
and I would like to believe that he did it for a greater good
Mm-hmm,
without any interference.
mm-hmm,
And I think he would represent a lot of people. But having said that, he would represent a lot of people, he is not representing everybody. So there are still differences. There are still differences, but he's actively there, and I would like to believe that he is trying to make the election happen as soon as possible, as fair as possible, and will do a good job. I would
mm-hmm.
hope.
He did say in the interview that, there's been the youths have been subjected to a lot of political suppression, although he wasn't being very specific about it. Um, do you think there will be a lot of suppression?
So I would say the exact day,
Mm,
the first day of the protest was was uncomprehendibly suppressed. It's something beyond imagination. Nobody even thought anything close of what actually happened.
Could you describe the situation
So in
exactly on
terms
the
of
ground?
suppression, I I would say that a peaceful protest turned into a bloodshed so quickly. Nobody nobody even imagined that something like this would have happened. And
You're speaking on you're referring to the demonstrators, or you're talking about the authorities,
authorities,
right?
authorities.
Mm-hmm,
So nobody could believe that a Nepalese soldier, Nepalese police,
mm-hmm,
would even have the thought
mm-hmm.
of shooting at such children. It's a thought that can never be imagined. Nobody imagined. And for them to just recklessly shoot
Mm,
and shoot at sight, it
mm.
doesn't matter who gave the order or the order was given or not. It is truly a mystery, I would say. And the government is trying its best to find the people behind it,
Mm.
but it's a mystery. And I would
They
not,
found the culprits? Have they found the culprits yet?
I mean, in terms of culprit now, who would you call the culprit, right? I mean,
Mm,
would you call the police, who some of them might have acted in self-defense, but this doesn't justify self-defense.
mm,
But now some people say it's foreign interference. Some people say it's the the prime minister, the then prime minister and the home minister that basically gave the order. But I cannot believe how they had the feeling
mm.
suppressed so that they could shoot. I think that is probably one thing that I have never been able to come over with.
Yeah, but at the same time, again, like I said, from an outside viewpoint, is that
Yeah.
there was also bloodshed on the other side. You know, your protesters and all that were also dragging politicians into the streets. I mean, those TikTok videos, reels were pretty horrific. You know, being beaten up, and then there was, you know, burning of the former prime minister's house. How would you explain that kind of escalation?
So in the first day after the shootings happened, everything took a chaotic stance. Everything went chaotic, and people started infiltrating. All the parties were involved. It's not that who was involved, but it's who was not involved. That is the question here. It's each
Mm.
and every party cadres, each and every people were involved
We're
in
talking about
basically,
political parties, right?
yep, political parties. Even the current government party, where people from their party were also involved, and they started just vandalizing whoever they hit.
Mm.
That's the real situation, I would say. It's not the Gen Z or the initial protesters that
Mm.
advocated for going to people's house and tearing them down or burning them down, but it was actually the party members who who took this opportunity to vandalize people that they don't agree with, people that they hate. So everything went anarchy at that point.
So it was what you're saying is that let me get that right. So it wasn't the public that just went wild and went crazy, and, you know,
No,
but it's
no.
actually there were
Yes,
political party cadres who were probably either inciting or wanting to incite that kind of violence against their own political opponents.
exactly.
And did that happen organically, or do you think there was just some sort of a directive?
I would say that the initiation might have been directed,
Mm,
but after, it started, everywhere just followed.
yeah. So how would you? I mean, in the next general election, how sure are you that it won't erupt again if there's going to be such a underlying tension already?
So the bubble has already burst,
I see.
firstly.
Yeah.
So once
People
the
have
bubble is,
already there's steam that's been
yes,
let off already.
yes. So the
Okay.
steam has been wrapped off.
Mm,
Organically, it will not happen.
yeah.
So now, in terms of the old parties, they, of course, it's a democracy. Nobody can stop them from coming to the election. That is the beauty of democracy, right? Everybody has equal rights to
Mm,
go and stand up wherever they want. So they will definitely be an opponent. And I would say that there is definitely chances
mm,
of people trying to infiltrate
mm,
such things and make it happen, but the people and the public will not take part in it.
yeah.
So since the people will not take part and follow like before,
Mm,
I believe the authorities should be able to contain it very, very precisely.
mm, mm.
Because,
Especially if you have an interim prime minister that is like you said, very firm and is trusted by the people. Is she also respected by the police force and the army and the civil servants? It's important. Yeah.
so you could understand it as a way that they are supported
Mm,
protocolly and the chain of command wise,
yeah.
but their feelings might not be on the right place. And it's very natural for that to happen because the past leaders or the past regimes, they have a very, very deep roots everywhere.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there will definitely be obstacles and hurdles. But even with the bureaucrats, I would say that this revolution, it has shaken them up. And since the old system
Mm,
in the figureheads don't exist, I believe that this is also a time where they have had the you know the openness to operate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that things will be very calm because of people are tired. I don't think people will erupt again. There is no reason for the eruption.
Because it's just going to be counterproductive, right?
I would say that peace is one
Of course,
idea.
you'll have to agree that it's going to a multipolar first, lah. I mean, if
Yeah.
like, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would say that peace is one idea
Mm.
that no one can say no to.
Why do you say that?
Right? Nobody wants to say no to. Wants to say. Let's put it wants to say.
I think Donald Trump would beg to differ.
I think that, there might be ways that people might benefit when there is no peace. But I would say I would beg to differ that there are also, opportunities around that as well.
Mm.
But in terms of Donald Trump, we could see him as a figure who's making peace everywhere
Yeah.
and
And also
trying
chaos.
his
I
best.
mean, but on the flip side, people also see him creating chaos everywhere. Not everyone sees it like you do.
Not everyone. So I would like, maybe I might be wrong, but I would like to think it based on my observations, or how I feel. I would feel that it is the same like how there is foreign interference in Nepal, right? Now let's say that there's a narrative where it is said that America was behind this,
Mm. Mm.
particular case, not this one. And when they say that America is behind this, I think that the reality is that it is different factions or different groups or different agents who have a particular, who have a particular agenda or a particular motive
Mm.
in a certain country. Those are the people that create situations, and that ends up in chaos.
Yeah. So it's not when people refer to Trump administration or the West, the collective West, it's not a monolith, right? It's different parts of an elephant in a way, right? And the ears could move not in sync with the legs, that kind of thing. So coming back to my question, how do you use peace to navigate in the multipolar world?
I think
Because you're in that space, what I mean? You are in that
yeah.
space. And you can see the world fragmented. Like you said, different agencies, it's not a monolith. And then now, the West has, what do you call it, rivals. China, for example, India, for example, Russia, for example. So people are not just going to sit back and say, oh, yeah, yes, sir, thank you, sir, those days are over.
Those days are over.
Those days are over. So you're gonna use peace, your Lumbini project, which will I think one day we'll dedicate a whole entire podcast on that, because that needs a really deep dive. But at a very high level, how would you use peace to navigate in a multipolar world that is not quite formed yet? You see, if it's very clear, okay, China's here, Russia's here. If the boundaries are very clear, then that's not an issue, because obviously there's some stable tension. But right now, that's not happening. So how are you going to use peace to be able to navigate this, what you call a continuous, a multipolar world that has not really been defined yet? Okay, maybe that's a better way of putting it. It hasn't been defined.
Yeah,
The
it has
boundaries
not.
have not. Yeah, it has not. The boundaries have not.
It is an idea.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is
an
an
idea.
idea. It is still an idea. It is still a concept. It is still a work in progress, very much a work in progress, although China's, of course, working very, very hard at it. Um, how do you do that? I mean, given that you've been to China so many times, and I'm sure you've seen how how the Chinese work, what their
Mhm.
attitudes are, and how they how they frame their future. So how would you
Okay.
use peace? How would you use
So
peace to do?
maybe this would help. So not just China, but even traveling to Thailand or
Mm,
United States or the other South Asian countries, I think that the peace. When you say peace, peace is again a very is like a black hole in itself, right? It
yeah.
consists of so many things in so many ways.
Mm,
But one place where I think everybody would meet is that I actually asked a monk from Thailand,
mm,
how so he basically he was explaining about world peace through inner peace. And I asked him, how can you and me meditating here in this room create peace in the world? And what he answered, and I would say that, at this point in time, after 3 years of working in Lumbini, I would have to agree to what he said.
mm,
So, what he said was when we meditate and when we find calmness inside ourselves, we create a certain ripple. And when that ripple is created, it touches someone, and that person shares the same kind of state of mind or a
mm,
state of
mm,
awareness. And through one ripple, it continues and keeps expanding itself until it reaches the world.
mm,
So when I worked in Lumbini, we would meet so many people, and when they hear that the about Lumbini or the birthplace of the Buddha, when they hear about Ramgram, the place where Buddha is buried,
mm,
when they go back, they share this within their group, and it keeps on spreading.
mm,
It keeps on spreading. It has spread. It has spread a lot. I look at myself 3 years ago, and now all these people I've interacted with, all these temples, all these abbots, all these
mm,
religious figures and masters that I mean, masters are the people that promote peace, are the gurus and masters.
mm,
I think that that is how is one way
mm,
would be to basically find that calm in oneself and try to spread that calm to the next person.
mm, mm,
I mean, that idea itself is enough.
mm.
But now, how much you can implement it is a different story. But I would say that there are people that are implementing it all over the world in their own way, in their own faith, in their own methods.
Mm,
And eventually every agents or ambassadors of peace
mm,
will basically spread it,
mm,
connecting each other. And when
mm,
that connection is done, is when we will have a multipolar world,
mm.
probably
Yeah, a stable multipolar,
a
a
stable
stable
multipolar
multipolar
world.
world. But you do believe that we are moving towards that direction, though.
I
It
I
is not. It
100%
is
believe.
not going to be a singular hegemon monolith that's going to run the world like what we've seen in the last 300 years, three, 400
Yes,
years.
I firmly believe
Mm,
that it is not going to head to that direction. No
head.
matter how much chaos
Mm,
it is,
mm,
it will eventually end up spreading.
mm,
And I think that there are so many religions, so many people that are advocating for this idea in different languages.
mm,
So it is not one multipolar world is not one idea, but multiple ideas
mm,
eventually mixing up together
mm,
is definitely difficult. Where there is light, there is always darkness.
mhm,
So it will always be a competition. But I think that we are heading towards a better direction. And one of the reasons I think that is because of the young generations that, even in like when I say China, and people they think that China has no faith, They are believed to be communist and they don't believe in spirituality. I very much beg to differ. I believe Chinese people are very spiritual people. They they have this unique sense of understanding when it comes to faith in their own way. Everybody has their own unique way of taking it, but with the interaction of these many people, they have it hidden inside themselves. And through different gods or through different forms, everybody has their own path. So the more new generations are basically liking the idea
Mm,
of peace,
mm,
and the meditation industry, we would call it, or the spiritual industry is also growing in its own very, very big way, as I can see from China and India, the two one of the two largest countries in the world. I
yeah,
mean, it's
yeah,
3 billion population,
yeah,
and all 3 billion population, I would say, they are very spiritual, and
yeah.
this spirituality will be the catalyst that
Mm,
will connect everyone in the end. That is what I believe, the
yeah.
peace in a multipolar world.
Yeah, it's interesting that you've raised this because I think it's really hard to try and explain to people who are not Chinese that
Mhm.
Chinese, the Han people, Chinese, as what it's a probably the only major ethnic group or nation country that hasn't got a official religion, if you like. Of course, they have Confucianism, Taoism, various Buddhist. They've actually adopted Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and also, but not really one of their own. And therefore, the assumption is you have no morals, you have no spirit, you don't believe in anything. I, because I'm Chinese, and because my family's, for many generations, we've been Christians, but I think that this is you're right. We're going through a really major transition, even in the religious space. Religion's going to be seen in a very, very different way from how we've seen view religion in a hegemonic a way, which means that it's your way, it's my God or no God. No, it's my God or nothing, right? That's always been that kind of approach that you could say it's a colonial approach, right? One God, and it's only my God, nothing else. If it's not A, then you don't, then you are B, and therefore you are my enemy. I think those kind of approaches are even in religion, it's going to that kind of view is going to break down very, very fast in the multipolar world. I totally agree with you. It's quite amazing. Anyway, it's been really great of chatting with you, Nikesh. Let's hope that we can catch up again soon.
Definitely.
You haven't been to Malaysia yet. You've been promising
I
us.
have not been to Malaysia yet. I will definitely visit Malaysia. Oh God.
Yeah,
I've been all around the places except for
I know.
Malaysia.
So maybe this forum could be an incentive. Do try, do try, do try.
Would definitely,
Yeah.
would
Okay,
definitely.
you've been to Indonesia as well, isn't it? You've been to Jakarta
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah. I have. Jakarta, Bali.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Nikesh. Let's
Thank you
let's
very much.
yeah, let's catch up again another date when we have more to share. I definitely will have you back on uh before and during the election. That will be very exciting because we will want to see if your projections are right.
Let's hope it is. We will make it right.
We'll make it right. Okay, thank you very much. Hi, welcome to episode 11 of Nepal and the Gen Z movement. As you know, in September, mid-September, early September to mid-September, there was a coup in Kathmandu where there was considerable bloodshed on the streets. And while the world was really watching the events unfolding, my friend Nikesh was in Kathmandu at that time. And Nikesh is a very talented, really multi-talented young man of only 26 years old. But I think he has provided a very deep insight into the politics of his country in a sense that for someone who is that young, he has actually been exposed to a lot of what is happening on the ground. Not possibly not so much as an activist, but certainly as an entrepreneur and someone who's very close to both the elites and also the bigger Hindu stroke Buddhist community. He has done a lot of work there, and in fact him and his partners, they are looking into developing this place called Lumbini in Nepal, which is the birthplace of Buddha. And his ambitions is to actually build up the entire location and develop it into a center of pilgrimage in the Buddhism world. So it's an extremely ambitious project that involves, I think, most likely to be billions of dollars, and that is why he has such close. That's why he has such deep insights into what's happening in Nepal. We'll definitely have him back later on to talk about his project in Lumbini, because that is going to be that will also transform, I think, how people see Buddhism in the next in this century, and that is the whole essence of a multipolar world, in that one religion that has dominated the conversation for the last few hundred years has no doubt been Christianity. And then, of course, Islam came into play, especially after 1948, in the Middle East, after the war, when the West really needed to protect a very crucial resource called oil, and that came out of the Middle East. So right now, what Nikesh and his community and his project is trying to achieve is to create another religious center away from your traditional Christian stroke Islamic narrative and spiritualism, if you like. So insofar as Nikesh is concerned, he represents he represents the Z generation. He was born in 1999, so he's only 26, coming up to 27. And very importantly, he has expressed a few things in his conversation just with me, in that they have grown up in an era of chaos. The Gen Z has never seen a world that was peaceful and peaceful, yes, calm and together. So they were born in 1999, and within 2-3 years, that was September 11, in September 2001, so they would have been 3-4 years old. And then 2008, there was the financial crisis, and there have been, conflicts ever since, very major ones. Iraq. They have never, and then you had all these the digital revolution, you had the internet, you had the dot-com bubble. Then there was of course, the internet. Then, of course, there was Facebook that came in around about the year 2000s. And there was the social media. Then people talk about fake news. People talked about cyberbullying. And there was all deep fakes. So they have they've come into this world in this sort of, for us, it seems like a chaotic moment, simply because we have seen, or we have lived through a time where we felt that there was calmness and, prosperity. Unlike this generation, where they find that, while they want to embrace technology, digitization, but there is also an apprehension of how AI is going to take over their jobs, how they're going to be manipulated by AI algorithms, and how they might fall into the trap of the whole AI colonization, which we talked about in a couple of episodes ago. So that for them is really real, simply because every day it's a struggle. It's a struggle for them. I suppose from the outside, people who are not from that generation, it seems like they have everything. They have their phones, they have their computers, they have their laptops, they have their tablets, they have their all sorts of gadgets, visors, and platforms where they can chat with each other without their parents knowing, sharing content, chatting with people from all over the world. They don't even have to leave their room in order to chat with someone from Mongolia, from Russia, or from Peru, or Patagonia, whatever. Even language now is not a barrier, because there's always translation apps. So while they are digital natives, fully connected and with each other, but they're also exposed to a myriad of global trends, ideas, and they have a critical perspective of their own society and governance, and that has not changed. Fundamentally that has not changed. Every revolution that we've seen over the millennia is always been about better life, peace, better a greater say. Whether you call it democracy, you want to call it communism, you want to call it socialism. People want to express their freedom. They want to express their opinion in a safe space. They want development, obviously. They want to own houses. They want to have a family where they don't have to worry too much about their safety, their security. And I guess the Gen Z of Nepal is no different. So what they're looking for, what is happening in Nepal is certainly not unique. But what is unique about Nepal is that it is a landlocked country, and it's squeezed between China and India. And we in Malaysia think that it's already tough enough to be squeezed between the US and China, trade wars, and so forth. But Nikesh, being the young man that he is, he thinks it's a good thing, which I think is very refreshing to hear. That he thinks that because they're squeezed between two large rising powers, i.e. India and China, whether you call them superpowers or rising powers, that they're able to play the game that Malaysia has always been playing, one versus the other between the US and China. So they're learning also very quickly this this particular generation, how they feel that they can get the best out of both worlds if they know how to play their cards right. But primarily, where we see Nepal is that I think that has to be a united government, and in a democracy today, it is a very, very tough. It's a very tall order, simply because democracy in the last few decades has actually caused more fragmentation than unity. So in order to follow the same model, I don't know how Nepal is going to navigate achieving that kind of institution, or at least a power center that is really would coalesce into a power center that will be strong enough to be able to negotiate in this rivalry between India and China, or tension, I would say tension. Because tensions, yes, goes up, sometimes it goes down, but the tension is there. And having to live in between, physically live in between these two countries, will certainly have to take a very, very strong, will require a very strong leadership. And the aspirations of the Gen Z is certainly one that yearns for a strong leadership. They have already long been disillusioned. It is a generation awakening. Yes, they're digitally connected, but politically very disillusioned. They're very critical of the status quo, as you have heard from Nikesh in his podcast. And they're trying to use new tools to challenge the old problems of corruption, social inequality, economic stagnation, and that the previous generation has failed to resolve. I think that was a recurrent theme that, previous generation couldn't do it. The previous generation couldn't do it. Our parents couldn't do it. Our grandparents couldn't do it. Former leaders couldn't do it, and they could not deliver. And yes, I get the sense that the newer generation, and by the way, they have actually, sparked a series of youth movements all over the world, Philippines and I think Indonesia recently, and also in Bangladesh too. So, barring all that, I think at the end of the day, in March, I believe that will be that will be the election. It is unclear to me that that election is going to be culminating into something that the Nepali youths aspires. To be a united government that has a good majority. It doesn't have to be a super majority, but certainly has a good majority, and to be able to deliver the kind of stability and unity required to move the country forward. But I do wish Nepal all the best. And I think this region, more than ever, requires political stability, because it has hurt the country so much. And it's not just Nepal. We're talking about the entire region. And sometimes countries like ourselves, in Malaysia, because we've had peace for so long and we've had stability for so long, and we tend to take these kind of things for granted. And I believe that Nepal. I hope Nepal will be able to find the stability it needs to be able to navigate in the multipolar world, because while the multipolar world is still nascent and it is still in progress, and it is still in work in progress, but when the boundaries are set and when the boundaries are formed, we need to be ready. Malaysia needs to be ready. Nepal needs to be ready. Everyone needs to be ready, and hopefully that readiness means a more solid that requires stability. That readiness requires stability, and this is what is a lot of countries are finding it difficult to achieve. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening to my post analysis. We will come back with more episodes with different guests from different countries, so that we have different perspective on things. Thank you very much.